Gunther delivers the education, insights, and sometimes complex information in the simple, easy to understand conversation that inspires people to act and take charge of their own life. Gunther, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kat, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you and truly inspiring people to create a life that they love.
Oh, awesome. Well, I am so excited you're here because I really love talking about creation and all things related to that. But before we dive in, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background to give the viewers some context.
So I've been an entrepreneur for about 30 years. I grew up in Queens, New York, got out of there as soon as I could to go to Colorado to ski the big mountains. This was about 1984. Did the thing that everybody said to do, which is be a good boy, get good grades, and life is going to be good for you. So I did all that, and I got out of college, and I was like, I'm just not ready to do this, whether it's a corporate thing or a job thing. And so I went commercial fishing in Alaska for a couple seasons, got my pilot's license, flew around the state up there, and then finally got down to it. I've been in several different industries: food distribution, solar, coffee. Been in the medical field for the last decade or so. So I like to say I've done almost everything out there that's ready, that can be experienced. And today I'm really excited, to share this concept of creation and manifestation. And I always like to say, look, you don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to be a meditator. You don't have to be, there's no special qualification for you to be creating a life that you love. And I have been able to create a life that I love. And it doesn't mean I'm a multimillionaire or anything like that. I've had successes, I've had failures, I've gone through divorce, I've done all the things that everybody has experienced in life. And it really comes down to a mindset and understanding this powerful thing that we have between our ears and how to really get what we want in life, to get the results that we desire. And so that's my whole life in business and in personal life has really come up to this moment where I just really enjoy sharing this information with people.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm excited you're sharing it with us today. And some of what you talked about in your background is so relatable. I think we're probably in the same age bracket. I did the same thing, did all the things I was supposed to do, but then started to branch off and do them differently. And, I really have stepped into creating a life I love, and I love sharing that with other people. And one of the reasons I wanted to interview you, I read on one of your websites that you said that the personal development world is broken, and that really resonated. You said it's focused on the fixing, and the truth is there's nothing to fix. Maybe we can start there.
I'd love to start there. That's very foundational, right? Because I've spent a couple $100,000 in the personal development space, over time, the seminars, the books, the courses, I need one more piece of knowledge. I have to fix some aspect of myself. I have to work on my weaknesses, to become who I want to be and get what I want in life. And what I realized and what I learned from my mentors, my coaches, people that I've had speaking into my life is that I'm not broken. There's nothing to fix. And we don't need to spend any time unraveling the past. That means there's nothing to heal. There's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to work through because a lot of us get into a cycle of, well, I have to fix something before I can be what I want or have what I want or get the relationship that I want or have the abundance that I desire, to have the health that I desire. I think look, the human condition is pretty simple. We try to avoid pain and we seek pleasure. And I think there's only 3 buckets in life that human beings are really concerned with, is that they want more money, more love, and more health. And by love, I mean all relationships, relationships with your kids, with your employer, with your spouse, just more loving environment in your relationships. And there might be a miscellaneous bucket. If you can think of something that fits in the miscellaneous bucket, that's fine. But money, love, and health, in my experience as a coach, has been the things that people desire and want to change in their life. So where we find ourselves is in the present moment, and we don't need to go backwards.
And that's where I used to get tripped up. And I think a lot of people do, right? Just what you said. We don't have to go backwards. So tell us more
Yeah,
about that?
it's a fresh concept. All right. So the problem solving reality is what we've been trained to work in. Meaning, when I ask someone, what do you want? The answer usually is, I don't know. That's like the number one answer I get. When I ask you, what do you really want? The answer is, I don't know. But if I asked you what you don't want, you'll probably give me a list of 10 things just like that. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want. The people know what they don't want. And so they spend most of their mental energy and most of their focus trying to prevent that which they do not want to experience.
Mhm.
This is why 80% of Americans hate their job, is because they have to go to work every day to get a paycheck, and the possibility of doing something you actually love is not in their realm. And
Mhm.
so many people have sacrificed their being in their life to get what they think they need to have what they truly want. And so the problem solving reality is this place when even our goal setting programs, which is why I say the personal development movement's broken, even the goal setting programs are, this is what I want. Here's the 5 steps I have to take to get it. And I'm going to put a date on it and I'm going to sign it. And when it doesn't happen, I feel like a loser.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't get it done. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. I'm not smart enough. I'm just not enough to get the things that I want. And so that's where you kind of get sucked back into, like, well, there must be something I need to fix about myself. There's something broken. There's something not right. I see other people in the world having what they want, or at least they appear to be having what they want.
Mhm.
And so why can't that be the results I get in my life? And it's a great question. Right. So what I'm going to suggest is that we need to shift over to what I'm going to call the creator stance.
Like
Instead
that.
of being a problem solver, I'm going to become a creator. And from the present moment, I get to choose something different.
Mm.
I just get to choose it. Right.
You do like a
And
180.
most of us, though, make choices by default,
Mhm.
by consensus, by the process of elimination. And this is one of the problems with social media today, is that before a lot of times we make a decision, we have to check with everybody else to see if they're going to agree with our decision or what our desire is. And I'm going to suggest to everybody listening right now, you need to get in touch with yourself really, really deep down inside and spend some time contemplating, number one, who it is you truly are, and what is it that you want.
Mm.
Because a true choice, what I'm going to call a true choice or a true end result or a true desire, is something that you want to experience or something that you want to have for no other reason than you just want it. When was the last time you chose something and in your mind you said, I want it just because I want it? And I'm not talking about a new pair of Jimmy Choos or a Gucci purse or something like that. Okay. I'm talking about a life thing. Like here's some of the directional choices. Like I choose to live my true nature and purpose.
Mhm.
I just choose it. I choose to live my true nature and purpose, or I choose to create a life I love.
Right.
Those seem like outlandish choices and they seem like not in reality. They seem almost impossible to a lot of folks that have not contemplated these things. But that is where the creator stance begins. The
Mhm.
creator stance begins in choosing that which you would love. And I use the
Mm.
word love very specifically. It's not like, it's not a whim, it's not a nice to have. It's when you really have something that you would just love to experience, like people would love to experience abundance.
Mhm.
They would love to experience love and intimacy. They would love to experience optimal health, right? But if you don't choose that direction and you're constantly in the problem solving reality trying to avoid a bad outcome, where your energy goes, where your focus goes, that's what grows.
Right. Love.
So creating shift in one's life is all about where is your focus.
So when we choose what we want to focus on, instead of going by default, like you said, the power of love can be very generative and transformative. when we
Mhm.
step into that, what you said, like, what would you love? What would I love to do? And I feel like a lot of people right now are struggling with that because of the old programming.
Yep.
How does someone really shift? You're talking about shift out of that old programming and into these spaces of like taking a creator stance. Like, how do they get there if they're struggling with that?
It's a great question. So it's, we live in a microwave generation where we want instantaneous results, and I want it to happen to tomorrow. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't even happen in a week. Now, you might begin to get inklings of it, but this whole process of becoming what I call a super conscious creator, turning my thoughts into things, my desires
Mhm.
become reality, I manifest that which I would love to experience, takes one thing. It takes bringing your mind back to what you want. And it's going to be completely natural for your mind to continue to go back to the old habit. Think of like a record player. If anybody remembers those, I think they're coming back into vogue now, but a record player had a needle running in a groove,
Mhm.
and it'll play your mind, your unconscious mind will play the same song over and over and over. We call it patterns. You see
Mhm.
things like repeating themselves. It's because your mind, your unconscious program, and we call it unconscious because it is unconscious. You don't know that it's going on. It is
Right.
unconscious to you, right? And what we need to do is pick up the needle and move it to a different song. We need to change the track. We need to play a different sound bite. And
Yeah.
what happens is the needle wants to go back to the old one because that groove is a lot deeper. The new song, the groove is kind of light, and that path has not been happening for a very long
Mhm.
time. And this is literally the pathways, the neural pathways in the brain.
Mhm.
And the science behind that is called neuroplasticity.
Okay.
So it is a real science. We've been taught and told that after 30 years old, you're pretty much who you are and you can't change. And now we don't like change, but it doesn't mean you cannot change.
Right.
So the pathways in the brain actually need to change. And the way you do that is by changing your focus. And then the mind has to create new pathways, new highways, new
Mhm.
grooves for it to do its thing. And so your identity always is creating your reality experience.
Okay.
And what I mean by identity is the unconscious program that says to yourself sometimes, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm unworthy, I'm not worthy, I don't belong. How many people feel like they don't even belong to their own family?
Too many people.
Too many, right? These are unconscious things, and the unconscious program has been created by choices and decisions that have been made in this life stream. All those choices and all those decisions have wound us up in the current reality or in the present moment. And what I'd like everybody to understand is that the current reality is just what is now. You actually created where you are right now. And some people always bucket that. They're like, no way I created the way I am now. I would never have chosen that. But the truth is, hindsight is 2020. You look back on your life and you can connect the dots. You can see I chose this, I chose that. I brought myself to this point.
Mhm.
And the natural tendency is for us to make the current reality negative or not good enough. And we think the future is going to be better. I'm just going to suggest that the future will not be better. It will just be different than the way it is now.
Mhm. That's interesting. I don't know if everyone wants to hear that it won't be better, that it will only be different. But different can be good. Different can be
That's right. See, as soon as we
fantastic.
put the better judgment on it, we
Mhm.
anchor the current reality in not being good. If we say the future is going to be
Mm.
better, the future is going to be better than the way it is now, then it's really difficult for us to become content with the way it is now. And the way you can become content, I'm not saying resigning to it always being that way. In the present moment, you can be content with the way it is now, yet desire something different at the same time. It's like two sides of a coin.
Yeah.
If your life continued exactly the way it is now, you would probably find a way to survive. You would
Mhm.
cope, you would deal with it. You're already doing it, so it could just continue. But imagine for a second that you realize that you're in the present moment. You are going to reclaim your power of choice. And now you're going to choose consciously. You're not going to choose unconsciously by going back to the problem solving reality and doing what everybody else is doing and just reacting to what comes at you, responding and reacting to what's coming at you all the time, and taking some time to figure out or choose the way you would actually love it to be. Okay. And then focusing on that and allowing the quantum physical field, the universe. And I mean, there's 40 years of science behind this, but this is how the mind works. By choosing that which you want and focusing on that, you don't have to worry about how it's going to show up. The people, the circumstances, the opportunities, all of that stuff is in the quantum field, but you just have to understand and focus on what it is you want.
It makes me think of when you're describing that of being a 3-year-old again, or being one of my kids. I want, and they just focused on that. They didn't care about anything else. And it's like, oh, we almost have to revert back to that, but without the tantruming part of it, right? Just that deliberate focus.
Yeah, you could say they are relentless.
Oh, they were.
they were relentless.
They are.
They want what they want. And what is it that they want? They just want to experience something that they haven't. They want to put something in their mouth. They want to go off the edge of a cliff. They want to, do something dangerous because they don't know what the end result of that experience is going to be. So the curiosity is huge. The imagination is gigantic. They just are in the present moment, constantly going after what they want, moment after moment after moment after moment. And then as we turn into 7-year-olds and 8 years old, our egoic identity begins to form. And you know that the average child is told no 300 times a day?
I believe it. As a mom, I think I did that average too much.
Well, that's okay, because as a mom, you're trying to keep your child safe, right? Don't do this. No, you can't do that. 300 times a day, this little being is hearing, no, don't do that. Don't follow your desire. Don't go after what you want. It's dangerous. It's not allowed. It could be detrimental, right? So safety, yes. But if you hear that year after year after year, 300 times a day, when you get into adulthood, guess what the program is telling you?
The same thing, the no's, right?
Same thing. No, don't do that. Well, that's a crazy desire. And then all your friends say, what are you, out of your mind? You're dreaming again. Like, we're not allowed to dream. That's why I call my company Dream Life Masters.
Love that.
The dream life, there's a mastery to dreaming, to being in the zone of possibility again. And I'm going to give you a secret that everything that has ever been created has been created twice. Once in the imagination and once in the 3-dimensional world. So you're not wasting your time when you are dreaming, when you're imagining, when you're desiring, when you're crystallizing in your mind a mental picture of the way you would love things to be, even though in the current reality, it may feel impossible. The only thing I need listeners to do is to really just believe in possibility for a moment. Is it possible? Because the quantum physical reality is that we live in an infinite field of possibilities. Just like if you were looking at the stars on a clear night and you see billions and billions of stars, right? Imagine each one of those stars being a possibility. And imagine you choosing one of those possibilities and drawing that possibility into your present moment reality. That's what having a true choice is like. They all exist. You can have anything you want, but it takes that relentless focus, like that child, day after day. I want what I want just because I want it. I don't have to tell a story about it. I don't have to rationalize it. I don't have to explain it to my parents or my kids or my spouse or anything like that. I want what I want. I want the experience that I would love to experience, love to have. Like being a private pilot. I love the experience of leaving the ground. Small airplane, I don't have a Learjet or anything like that. Just get off the ground in a small airplane. I love the experience of leaving the ground. That's why I chose
Right.
to learn how to fly, right?
Mhm.
I love skiing. I was a professional ski bum for 4 years, skied 130 days a season. Why? Because I love skiing fresh, deep powder. And the only
Mm,
way you get to hit it is if you live there,
right.
right?
So you did it. That's great because most people wouldn't just go do that. They go do what they're
Right.
supposed to do or trained to do. So good
Yeah.
for you.
And there's a hybrid there for a second, because I'm not, telling anybody to go quit their job and go be a ski bum or something like that. Look, there is a current reality that requires some diligence and attention to
Absolutely.
surviving in this life.
Mhm.
But what I'd like everybody to understand is, in order to become the creator, there's a mindset and a belief system that needs to change. And this identity that we have needs to shift from I'm not good enough to I am good enough. I'm not capable. I can acquire capability. I can become that capable, right?
So how do we shift it? Is that magnetic mind
Yeah,
shifting
well,
up or is that
the
something else?
way the way I as a coach help people shift their mindset is through something I'm calling a recode.
Okay.
Meaning, it's, think of like Windows 10, and there's an
Mhm.
update that comes down to your machine, and you install the update, you restart the machine. Now the machine runs different. Our mind is like that. And so the unconscious program needs an update
Yeah.
because we made choices and decisions along the way. And here's where we don't need to fix anything. I don't need to know what those decisions were. I don't need to know what choices were made. I don't need to rehash any traumatic events that have happened or anything like that. I just need to go to your super conscious level. This is the part of your being that has never slept. It's been part of every event and emotional circumstance in your life. It just knows everything. It's connected to the infinite field.
Mhm.
Knows all things, all knowledge, all wisdom, knows everything about you. There's no secrets to your super conscious side. And when you set your intention and you make your choice, what I do is I show you how to go to that super conscious part of yourself and ask for what you want.
Okay.
And it's basically this: super conscious, do you see what I would truly love and truly desire? The experience that I would love to have? Super conscious, of course, says, yes, I see that. Do you see the way it is now? Do you see the current reality the way it is now? Yep, I see that. And I would ask super conscious, say, would you just please remove any resistance or any blockage that's in the way and do a massive change history on this unconscious program so that I'm in more alignment, so that my main personality, the being that I am, is in more alignment with that true desire. And when you do a recode session like that, it takes about 15 minutes. You just feel lighter. You feel like something has shifted.
Right.
And indeed it has. That program has been edited, because the choices and decisions that we made when we were that toddler or
Mhm.
that teenager, right, to reduce pain and increase satisfaction or pleasure, they served us then, but they may not serve us today where we are. Those choices and decisions don't serve us. So we get to, in the present moment, choose something different. And
Mm.
when we just choose it and imagine it, because look, Einstein said there's only two things in the universe: there's information and there's energy. The information or the intention in the quantum physical science is just that. It's the information. It's the desire. The emotion is the energy. This is why the word love is so important, because it's an emotion. And that is like the lighter fluid that goes into the creative process. And when the two meet, the field, the quantum physical field, actually collapses into the present moment.
Mm.
And that's the way you experience your life. Think of your life as a holographic movie where you're the producer, you're the director, you're the screenwriter, the script writer. It's your movie. And you are creating that movie every day, people reacting and responding to you, employers, spouses, children, all the characters in your movie are reading from the script you created. And when your identity shifts, some characters, just like in a soap opera, will exit stage left. They will just leave. And new characters might appear. New opportunities may appear. We call this sometimes coincidence or serendipity and things like that. I'm going to call it creation, manifestation. This is how you create the life that you love. And when I ask people, so what's in the life that you love? They're like, well, I don't know. So if I was going to bake a chocolate cake today, there are certain ingredients I need to make a fabulous chocolate cake, right? Well, in order for me to create the life that I love, I need to know what the ingredients are. Not going back into problem solving, saying, well, I don't want that, and I don't want that, and I don't want that, and I don't want that. I need to find out from you what it is that you're going to replace it with. What is it that you do desire? What is it that you want? What do your relationships look like? What does it feel financially to you in the world? How is your physicality and your body behaving and responding? How would you love it to be? And you focus on that and allow the universe to take care of the details.
I like that. I've been doing a lot more of that. And I hope that people are inspired by what you're saying, that they begin to make those shifts by themselves and focus on the things that they want. I love the analogy of the cake. I love to bake, and just, going after those ingredients and letting go of the other stuff and just focusing on what you want. And it's, that toddler analogy you brought up, my 18-year-old, I feel like some of our children are getting this much more quickly than we did, or I did. And
yes,
that toddler that I want, he's now 18, he's almost 19. And he said to me, I'm not going to work. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to work? He's like, well, I'm not going to call it work. It was about the languaging. He's like, I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what I love and earn money. But if I call it work, I'm not going to want to do it. And I was like, wow, that's, just.
Some people call that enlightenment, right? Some people call that evolution. Some people, but how does a young person like that even come to make a statement like that?
I know. Well, he's picking his ingredients for his cake, I guess. So like way ahead of.
Exactly.
Sure.
He knows, he's thinking about how he wants his life to be. The level of enjoyment. I don't want it to be work. I want it to be anything that I do is just joyful. It's pleasurable. It's not work, because work is a 4-letter word, right?
Right.
It's pleasant. It's interesting. It's curiosity generating. It's engaging. It's all these things that make you wake up in the morning and look forward to your day.
Right.
But you have to know what that is. If you don't know what it is, you never imagined what it would be like, and you've not created any kind of a mental picture about it, how are you going to create it?
It's a good question.
Right?
When people say to you, or clients say to you, like if you talk to them with this language, and if they were to say, I don't know, what's your response? I'm just curious.
Well, I usually have a smart ass answer, which is if you don't know, who should I ask? But then when I'm not being a smart ass, I'll be, look, you do know. You do know there's some aspect of your being, some aspect of your personality that does not want to allow that desire to come up, because the egoic mind hates change.
Right.
The egoic mind is there to keep you safe. It is there to maintain the status quo for only one reason, because it knows how to manage it. And when you start going off on a tangent and start imagining all kinds of things that are different, again, I'm not saying better, they're just different. The egoic mind says, whoa, time out, wait a second. We've tried this before. We tried that before. It didn't work out so good. It caused pain. And it starts bringing up all the reasons why you should just stay exactly where you are. And this is what creates sometimes oscillation. There's 3 places we can be. One is totally stuck and nothing changes. Just Groundhog Day, every day, stuck.
In there.
Second place is oscillation. Oscillation feels like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, half step back. Like I'm moving towards what I want. I'm getting it, and I'm just about to touch it, taste it, feel it, grab it. And then it just slips out of my fingers, and boom, I snap right back to where I was. And I got to do it again. Where we want to get is a place called flow. And your professional athletes will talk about being in the zone, being in flow, where you're just creating thoughts turn into things. Now, we cannot maintain a flow state 100% of the time. But when we get into that flow state, we've all felt it before. We've all been there. You know, you're in flow when time stops. Like you were doing something for 3-4 hours. And you're like, where'd the time go? That's a flow state, right? And so when you shift your identity from these self-sabotaging belief systems that maintain the status quo, and that identity begins to shift by reorganizing the unconscious program, then the reality shifts. It's kind of magical. All of a sudden, things begin to show up. All of a sudden, something just changes. Somebody that maybe has treated you like dirt for years, all of a sudden treats you like a queen or a king. It just shifts.
So we're not actually doing anything. Like we're not trying to make these shifts. We're focusing our energy on what we love, on how we'd like things to be. And then these things shift on their own, you know, or like you said, or some people just exit stage left, but they shift, you know, for us.
Something shifts. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the key part. You don't need to know how it's going to happen. I'll give you an example. Entrepreneurs come to me. They say, I need to create a successful company. You know, I need to build my company. I'm like, well, why do you want to build your company? Well, so I can make a lot of money and I can have freedom and I can experience, you know, abundance. I say, so the true choice is not to have a successful company. The true choice is the experience of abundance. The true choice is the experience of freedom, right? Whether it's time freedom, financial freedom, whatever, that is the true desire. That's the true choice. So let's work on focusing on the true choice. Because if you're in a business for the wrong reason, it can create frustration. It can create struggle. It can create a nightmare. All right. Because now, if you want the business because you're in love with the end result of the business and what it produces and lives that it impacts and changes and things like that, and you love the business because you want to change the world and you've created a business, you know, or something like that, there's an energy, there's a love to it. It's not because the business is going to give you something else. See, having and desiring a successful business as an end result of its own, then you're in a true choice. Then you're in a true end result. But if you really just want more money or more freedom or more abundance, then that's the true choice. And look, you could find a suitcase on the street with $10 million in it. It's a possibility.
Right.
It's
one of those
possible.
stars.
One of those stars, true choice. I choose to experience freedom and abundance.
Yeah.
That's the true choice. I choose it. That is the experience I want to have. I don't know how that's going to come into alignment in my three-dimensional experience in my holographic movie, but I choose it anyway. Not knowing how it's going to happen, but that's what I'm focusing on. And the longer you focus on that, like that resilient child, I have to answer this question too. A lot of people ask, well, how long is it going to take? And the answer that I have is think in terms of as soon as possible. See, even in our goal setting program, we say, oh, this has to happen in 30 days. This has to happen in the first quarter. This has to happen in 12 months. As soon as you put a time limit on like that, I know I'm going against everything that the personal development movement has taught. But what happens if it doesn't happen, you give up.
Right. And we get frustrated
So you create a negative cycle on that. You create a negative cycle. But if you hold the stance of, I want what I want for no other reason than I want it, I want to experience this, and it's going to happen as soon as possible. It allows you to stay committed to that direction. It allows you to stay in alignment with that true choice. And the fifth step of the program really is to take obvious action. This is kind of where the secret and the law of attraction kind of drop the ball. You will not be able to sit in your living room, you know, lotus position on your couch and create a Ferrari in your garage. Okay. It's not going to work like that. You have to take what I'm going to call obvious action.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example in the health space, right? A lot of people want to lose weight. A lot of people want to get healthier, especially in the last 2 years. You know, we've been very focused about health and disease and infection and all this kind of stuff. And for me, the true choice has always been I focus on optimal health and vitality. I do not focus on staying safe or not getting infected or staying away from my friends and things like that. I just don't choose that. I choose the experience of optimal health and vitality.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get done with a recode, you come out at the end, I'm going to ask you, so what's obvious about that? What is the next obvious action step that you can take? And your superconscious will give you something that is obvious. And when you take that obvious action, like in health, it might be as simple as I need to drink more water and less soda, or maybe I need to eat more healthy food instead of fast food, or maybe I need to call my doctor because I haven't seen him in 10 years. Right? There's an obvious action step that if you take that action, you are in alignment with that true choice. If I want optimal health and vitality, what does an optimally healthy and vital person do? What actions do they take? How do they live their life? Think about that for a second. And if I just take the smallest step in that direction, I am informing my superconscious that I'm actually serious about that true choice and that desire.
And then you keep stepping in.
You keep stepping in that direction, you know, little baby step here, little bigger step, little step. You keep taking obvious action that is in alignment with that true choice, that experience that you want. That is a critical step. It's the last step, but it's a critical step.
No, and that's really important because I love what you said, you know, we can't just sit there and, you know, we do have to take action, but it's taking that right action, or that, I like how you put the obvious action. Like when we get that intuitive hit that comes from all this other work, we have to act upon it. We don't just do nothing.
A way to ask that question is like, what could I do? Because there's many things that you could do, but what could I do? What could I do today? What could I do this week that moves me in the direction of my goal? And what this allows you to do is have some graciousness. You know, it's not like this slave driver in our goal setting programs that this has to happen on a certain day and da, 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 right? It's more of a grace and a mysticism in creation, you know, in allowing things to manifest, because we live in a co-created universe. One of the directional choices that I work on with my clients is, look, I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. All right. Knowing that the universe is happening for me, not to me, based on my focus. Right. So to become the predominant creative force in my life, I actually need to know what I want to create. And when I know that, then I can focus on it and I become that predominant creative force. Now, does that mean nothing bad ever happens? No, there are always things that kind of happen that you would prefer not to experience or prefer not to have happened, but we live in a co-created universe. Then it becomes more, how do you react to things that you didn't plan for?
Right.
Right.
How does one react when it's something that isn't planned for?
So viewing things as a challenge. I'm going to suggest this, that a life with no problems and no challenges, you would hate that life. You would be bored out of your mind. Okay. I mean, just look at, why do we watch sporting events? Why do we play board games? Why do we do puzzles? Why do we do things that create challenges for us? Because in the human experience, we like to win. We like to overcome. We do like challenges, right? And so when something shows up in the current reality, it's an opportunity for you to become creative, for you to focus on the outcome you would love. There's a challenge, there's a crisis, there's a problem, there's something that shows up. Well, instead of taking the problem solving stance and trying to figure this out to keep this thing away from me, I can be in the present moment and say, okay, this is just what is. And what is the outcome I would love to experience? And focus on that and this challenge and this apparent problem and this thing that's going on in the current reality. If I focus on the end result of that, the outcome of that, where would I love this situation to wind up? And I focus on that, you will see that many times things shift.
I'm going to do more of that. And I hope our listeners will too.
Yeah. Now, I mean, when I say it, it sounds easier than it is. And the hard part is just going to be your mind naturally will want to flip into the problem solving
Mhm.
reality. Your mind will definitely become anxious. It'll become maybe depressed. It'll do all these things. Our power is in our command of our focus. Even if it goes out 100 times a day, all I'm going to ask listeners to do is notice it. Don't beat yourself up about it because it's totally natural. And just recall your focus to go back to what you want. And if it steps out again and you're focused on, just notice it, bring it back and focus on what you want. You may have to do this 200 times a day. Okay. And bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. It's about your focus.
I appreciate that you said that. It's, that retraining of the focus, the retraining of the mind, but it is normal for the mind to want to go the other way. So when people who are thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me because I can't do it, it's good to know that we are normal and then we just have to keep back at it and,
Yeah.
shifting and choosing to.
That's the key part. You said
Yeah.
it right there. You are choosing. And if you look at your life from the moment you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, it is a series of choices. What time am I going to wake up? What am I going to wear? Am I going to brush my teeth or not brush my teeth? Right? How am I going to do my hair today? How am I going to do this? Am I going to drive? I'm going to take a bus. Like you're choosing every step. Am I going to have a Starbucks coffee today or Pete's coffee today? Like it's a choice, right?
Right. Everything is a choice. Yeah.
Everything is a choice. And every choice has a consequence. Sounds negative. It's not a negative thing, but every choice has a response to it.
Right. For an outcome or
an outcome. Yes. A creative outcome. I'm either going to hold a cup of Starbucks coffee. I'm going to hold a cup of Pete's coffee, right? Depending on the choice that I made. So those are simple choices. Now, bigger choices of I choose to create the life that I love is a very large directional choice. I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life is a very large directional choice. I choose optimal health and vitality, huge, expansive choice. But being in that space, and there's a key phrase I want to share with everybody, that is, we need to be it in order to see it. Everything that has ever been created has been created twice, once in the imagination and once in what we call the real world. Your athletes do this. Your athletes spend 50% of their training time imagining themselves winning, breaking a new world record, getting a gold medal, seeing the audience erupt in cheer and their mom in the audience, or, they're visualizing, they're seeing this end result, this reality that they would just love to experience. And they do the work in the pool or on the ski slope or on the track or whatever. Yeah, they do the physical training and exercise, but this is so much more important is the mindset with which they go into those activities with, and they're seeing the end result. They're experiencing now the way it's going to be, and getting into the emotion of the end result is step 2. So you have a true choice. And once you have that choice, you have to get into what it would feel like to be that now. Not holding the creation in the future, but bringing that creation, that possibility into the present moment, even if you're only imagining it. And what does that feel like?
Do you spend a lot of time doing that every day for yourself?
No, it really only takes about 15 minutes a day. It just takes moments a day. You have some free time. You can easily just get into your imagination. It's a muscle you have to exercise. Some people will say, well, I can't do that. My imagination doesn't work like that. I'm like, do it anyway. Okay. Just
try it.
Just practice. You see, we have an aversion sometimes to maybe doing something or doing it wrong for a bit. You're not doing it wrong. You're learning how to do it. I mean, when's the first time you rode a bicycle? When's the first time you drove your car, right? You didn't do it perfectly day one. You learned how to do it. And now it's like an unconscious competence that you have in driving your car. It's the same thing with exercising your imagination. You start one day, maybe you can only even mess with it for 5 minutes. But messing with it for 5 minutes is better than not ever messing with it at all. right? So you do something to exercise that imagination muscle. And this is not formal meditation or anything like that. Although we have formal meditations, but I'm talking for the very beginner where this conversation is kind of resonating with some part of their being and they would just love to create the life that they love. First step, what's the ingredients? And I'll give you an analogy. I want you to figure out what your average perfect week would look like. I'm talking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just like your son, right? He's going to do something that's not work. So for everyone listening right now, I want you to imagine your average perfect week as you're creating a life that you love. What are you doing on Monday? You know that 90% of heart attacks happen on Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if it's 90%. It's a huge number. 60.
I did not know that. Wow.
Monday morning, 9 a.m., most heart attacks of the week. Why? Because people are stressed out going back to their work. They had a great weekend and now they got to go back to their 5 days and, hump day. And then it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And I get to be in the weekend again because I like the weekend. Your son is saying, I'm not doing that.
Oh, he's not. Let me tell you, he's been bucking the system for a long time. And I'm following suit and I am helping him embrace that, if you will. But he's got a very creative mind, very creative. There's a lot of things and a lot of stuff he wants to do and do good in the world. It's not that he doesn't want to participate in life. He wants to do it differently than he's been trained. And that's some great things.
I think of the Toy Story one, right? Where Buzz Lightyear, he's falling down on something and Woody says to him, you're falling. He's like, he says, I'm flying, or something about flying with style, right? So living your life with a chosen style, right? A chosen reality. It doesn't have to be for you the way it is for everyone else. Just because you're 65 years old doesn't mean you have to have high blood pressure and heart disease and diabetes and all. It's just because you see it around you and you see a lot of people suffering from that. If you have the unconscious thought that the older I get, the more symptomatic I'm going to get, the older I get, the more prone I am to disease, and I have to do something to prevent that, instead of focusing on having amazing health and vitality, and you being 92 years old and still being able to ride your mountain bike and ski and, have sex and do all the things that you love to do in your life. I want you to imagine your average perfect week. What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? Where are you doing it? What does it feel like to do it? Imagine the details. What kind of a home do you live in? What kind of a car do you drive? And begin to imagine that life that you love. Just like baking a chocolate cake. I need some sugar, I need some chocolate, I need some flour, I need some eggs, I need this, I need that, I need that. What are the ingredients to this life that you love? And this is where it begins. You have to come up with a true choice.
And I love that you said that. I mean, a true choice from in here, not what someone else is telling you, someone else's idea, that true choice from your own heart or your own being. Yeah.
And the way you know you're in a true choice, again, is if I asked you, why do you want that? Why do you want what you want? If you start to go into some kind of story and it leads you somewhere and all that, that's not the true choice yet. Then follow the story and get to the end result of the story. What is it ultimately that you want? Because that is the true choice, right? There's choices in the middle, but there's this end result. And a lot of times we imagine things because we're already planning the steps. We have already predetermined how things need to happen. And this could be the perfectionist in us. This could be the protector, the controller aspect of our unconscious programming. There's identity structures that have been put in place that either allow or don't allow you to do what it is you desire to do. And they hold you back. Okay. So this is, again, a process. But the beginning is knowing what you want. And if I asked you, why do you want it? The answer I'm looking for is, I want it just because I want it.
That's very validating. And I hope it is to our listeners.
Just rest in that for a second. What would that feel like if someone asked you, well, why do you want that? And maybe you've been used to telling a story around it, or justifying it, or rationalizing it, or convincing someone that it's a good choice. Imagine being able to respond to that question and saying, I want it for no other reason than I just would love to experience it. I just love it. I just want it.
Mm.
And actually being okay with that answer.
That's the next part, or the caveat of being okay with it. Because I feel like so many people are not okay with it, or they can just get to that point and get into that energy, but then it's like the brakes come on because it's like not
Yeah.
okay. So do we just give ourselves permission to be okay with it, or practice that energy too of just being okay and being with
Yeah,
it?
see, in a recode, we go through the family history. We ask superconscious to just go. Science tells us we can go up to 7 generations in the past. Maybe it's further than that. But we say, look, superconscious, just check out the family history, and anything that presents a resistance. This is where permission comes from a lot of times. In the family history, certain things were frowned upon. Certain things were not allowed. In
Right.
our family, we don't do this. Or in our family, we absolutely have to do this. And if you don't do this or not do that, you're not okay. You're defective. You are not in the clan. You're not part of this gang. You're not being loyal. And so a lot of us in our adult lives have this unconscious program that we have a desire to go do something, but there's something like anchoring us in the present reality and won't let us move. And so when we do a recode, we ask superconscious, hey, do you see what that is? Can you just please make it, change it, just move it, massage it, reorganize it, whatever you got to do, so that the main personality, who you are today, can be in alignment with that true choice and magnetically move to that true choice, or have that thing like a Star Trek tractor beam pulling that possibility into your present moment. Right? And that's what it is. And that's why it has to be as soon as possible. It's not a microwave. The identity has to shift. The focus needs to be maintained, and you're drawing that possibility into your present moment. And then also being expectant and an observer for evidence to see shifts happening and noticing it. And then taking credit for that too. Like, I created that. My focus created that, and then I always say when a possibility comes through your present moment, as soon as it moves through your present moment, it's now evidence because it's in the past.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, you reminded me of someone I worked with years ago who talked about some similar steps, but that giving ourselves the credit, is that's really huge. And that's tough for a lot of people. And like, just go celebrate it, or celebrate yourself for doing that. I appreciate that you shared that. We've covered a lot of ground today. We've been talking for a while. I really, I appreciate it. If someone wanted to get to know you more, or your work, how can they find you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Best place to find me is at dreamlifemasters.com. Dreamlifemasters with an S.com. And there's a cool resource on there. Look, nothing in your life is going to change unless you change something in your daily routine. If you do the same thing every day, day in, day out, not much is going to change. But if you change one thing, and there's a download on there at dreamlifemasters.com, it starts with your morning ritual. And I'm just going to encourage you to find 5, 10, 15 minutes for you to sit down and begin to exercise that imaginative muscle. And then if you'd like to join a webinar where I go more into the science, the quantum physical science and all that, that's an opportunity that's on there. And if somebody that wants to really experience a recode, I spend about an hour and a half with somebody, and there's an opportunity on that site to book a session time with me so that you can actually experience a recode and feel this shift. So that takes a little time. And then, it's just anybody that resonates with this conversation. It is your higher self. It is your super conscious giving you that proverbial kick in the butt, saying, hey, things need to shift. Things need to move. Things need to be different.
I agree with that. Like, when it resonates, that is a really good indicator to take some action, or at least some investigative action, and go to the website or check something out. when you were talking about imagination earlier, it is like the third time in a week I've had or been part of this conversation about imagination. And it's like the universe saying, pay attention,
There you go.
that's a critical key point. So I really appreciate you being here. I had a closing question. It almost sounded like you answered some of it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So when someone does find themselves at a crossroads or a choice point in their life and their heart feels a little closed down and they're not able to say, what would I love? Like, what's the one thing you would say to them?
It's stay with it till you get it. Do not give up on what it is you desire. You know, a lot of people struggle today with purpose in their life or meaning, right? A lot of the millennial generation says and does what it does because they are seeking fulfillment. They're seeking meaning. They're seeking a purpose in their life. And so when the heart is kind of closed down, it may be because there was some trauma or there was some pain or there was some experiences and the egoic mind is too scared or afraid to open it up again to experience something new because the premonition is that it's going to be another painful event. So I just shouldn't go there. Right. But yet, if you want your life to be different and you want to create a life that you love on all aspects, money, love, health, right? In all aspects, you want to create this life that you love. You stay with that desire long enough to open it back up and to trust it and to continue to imagine that which you want. And that alignment will happen. Body, mind, and spirit will align, and it's based on your desire. You know, some people, you know, in some of the religious faiths, they say, well, what's God's will for my life? Or what is the purpose of my life? Well, what if your desires are God's will for your life? Whatever you hold as God, right? However you define God.
Right.
But what if your desires are that? What if your desires are the thing that's moving, is the communication, that intuition hit into your being? And if you always ignore them, or suppress them or push them down, and you don't sit with them for a while, you don't contemplate them for a while, you don't contemplate the possibility of that actually being a reality for you, because maybe you're scared or you're fearful, or you come from lack or limitation or anything like that, just allowing it to be it now, see it, experience it, allow it to just exist, if only in your imagination. Just allow it to be there, because the mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality. It does not know the difference. So you're not wasting your time. It's not a futile exercise. It is probably, I want to say, the most powerful thing you can do is to begin to imagine that which you desire.
That's great words of wisdom and advice for our listeners, I think, just to begin and to allow it all to happen. I really appreciate your time and energy today and your wisdom, Gunther. Thank you so much for being here. And to our listeners, if you like what you heard on this episode and got something out of today's conversation, show Gunther some love by visiting his website, Dream Life Masters, or follow him on social media. All of the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, may you tap into what lights up your heart and take deliberate, inspired, or obvious action to create the impact that you desire.